Hi everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about Anne Bradstreet's poem called The Author to Her Book. This poem was written in the 1600s, and I chose this because it really grabbed my attention when I first read it, and I haven't written about it yet, but Anne Bradstreet really inspires me as a person because she pushed back on societal norms and continued to write even though women weren't really publishing works yet. What I really like about this poem is how vulnerable it is. Most of the time, authors want to present their work in a polished and perfect manner, but here, Bradstreet, you can, when you read, you can tell she's brutally honest. She calls her book ragged, irksome, but even in her criticism, you can see her affection, and I think that's super unique for an early writer, especially a woman in Puritan New England, when publishing wasn't really seen as appropriate for her yet. Although she was the first female publisher in the early Americas. This poem makes me feel empathy for Bradstreet, and it also makes me think about my own experiences. For example, sharing your work, whether that be writing, art, or even a social media post. It always comes with some form of self-doubt and wondering if it's good enough. Social media you can relate to because you try to find a photo that doesn't have very many flaws, and when you think you have a good photo, you see other flaws in it, and therefore you don't put it out online because you don't want people to judge it. But in hindsight, you really can't control how people judge your stuff and what they think about it, and I think that part really connects with me because I can relate to not wanting to post something due to thinking about what people are gonna think about it. So yeah, the lines that stick with me the most in her poem are, "I'd washed thy face, but more defects I saw, and rubbing off a spot still made a flaw." I wanted to read those aloud because I think they capture the endless cycle of editing. I took AP Art in high school, and I worked on a project for a couple weeks, and then I'm almost ready to turn it in, and then I change one thing I think that would make it better, and suddenly I see 5 other problems within it. It's frustrating, but I can relate to Bradstreet when she says rubbing off a spot trying to make it better, it still made a flaw. Finally, I think this poem is still relevant today because of the creative struggle. It really hasn't changed. We still, as human beings, we wrestle with perfectionism. We worry about what people are going to say, the criticism we're going to get, and wondering if our work and if what we do is good enough, basically. But Bradstreet reminds me that even hundreds of years ago, authors and writers felt the same way, and she continued to have the courage despite people underestimating her, despite her own doubts and her own underestimation. And it inspired me that maybe we can push past our own insecurities as well and share our work or our